On this week's episode of the Jesse T Show, Mia Martin joins the show. How you doing, Mia?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jesse?
Doing very well, doing very well. It's been amazing getting to know you. I know over the last couple months we were plugging into each other and, been able to add value on both ends. And so I just wanted to take today and share your story with the world. I know that you have a pretty incredible journey. I wanted people to get to know a little bit more about you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really grateful to be here, and it's been so fun getting to know you and all the connections we've made for one another. So my journey started at Michigan State University. That's where I went for undergrad.
Go Spartans.
That's right. Go green, go white.
I'm wearing the green for you today. That's what this is.
Thank you. I appreciate that. After I graduated from Michigan State, I had a sales and marketing role while I was with that company in different departments and different parts of the organization. So it was great. I learned a lot about training and developing people. And also just the value of staying connected and networking. So in 2016, I left the company, and I had already started my own company in 2013, but I was kind of one foot in, one foot out. And I decided to go 100% in as an entrepreneur. And I started Modern Creative, which is a digital marketing agency here in Atlanta. So I've had a lot of fun with that agency. I'm also a professional speaker. So I've met a lot of amazing people throughout the city and throughout the country. Professional speaking has taken me on a few journeys. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed the ride. So
amazing context and background. So I wanted to dive into a few pieces of what you mentioned there. So for your entrepreneurial journey, everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own motivations and their own experiences. What led you to that point? Had you had any examples in front of you for entrepreneurship, or is this just something like, for me, I was an entrepreneur my whole life. I have been one, and it was something that was just in my DNA. So like, what was your journey like?
as a kid, I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but I wasn't really sure. And I've gone through a few different businesses before I finalized
We all
Modern
have.
Creative. Right. So I guess I was a young serial entrepreneur. However, I realized it when I just wasn't really motivated to keep doing what I was doing. I loved what I did. I loved the people, but I knew I wanted to try something different. And I knew I had to go out on my own to be able to do that. But I'm very grateful for the experiences I had professionally, because it helped mold me as an entrepreneur. And I wish that everyone had the opportunity to do both, because I think for the younger entrepreneurs that are out there that want to jump straight into entrepreneurship, it's okay, you can do it, but give yourself the opportunity to have a professional job, even if it's only for a year. And here's why.
Yeah.
Because when you have your own company, you have to be everything. You have to be finance, you have to be marketing, everything, sales. I had this one post on social media, and I put entrepreneurship, the real DMX challenge, because it had 12 different pictures of me in different roles. So everyone was kind of cracking up over that. But if you could work for a company and learn from other people, utilize their resources in their platforms to really enrich yourself and learn as much as you can. Be a sponge. Ask people what they do, why they do it, how they do it. Learn as much as you can, because you're going to need all that when you start your own company. So if you're able to do it, I'd say give yourself at least a couple of years out there working before you jump right in.
Unbelievable context, sound advice. I mean, for people that are going through business, and you mentioned a few different iterations. And so, we could talk about those a little bit. What were the first few, I guess, if there were companies or ideas you had before you landed where you are today with your company?
So I got married in 2014, and my best friend and I planned the whole wedding, and my wedding was about 350 people.
That's not a small wedding.
It was big. So I thought I could be an event planning company after that. So the LLC for Modern Creative is actually events for less, because my goal was to throw luxury events for less. So initially I was doing marketing and events. The marketing and sales piece was always in there, but the return on time investment just wasn't there for me in events. And I realized that when it's not your own wedding or event, is not really as fun.
You deal with probably bridezillas or groomzillas, and you deal with people that all have conflicting. They need this while you need this, and I'm sure for yours, it sounds like you were a lot more motivated because it was your big day and you wanted it to be the way you wanted it to be. So your passion was there, you were all in, but then you go deal with other people's weddings and it doesn't feel the same as what it sounds like.
Exactly. So I have a lot of really cool decorations in my basement if anyone wants to come rent them. And then, no, but the cool thing is I made a lot of really good relationships with vendors and hotels and event facilities. So when I have clients that need events, I can pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, let's make it happen. And I just feel like everything happens for a reason. Every experience I've had at some point in time, I'm starting to tap into it. And I'm like, that's why I had to do that. Right.
Yep, the
Um,
relationships are everything, and experience is one of the
everything.
best teachers. I mean, for you to be able to get out there and have the where did that come from? Where did your entrepreneurial hustle come from? Is this like you said? I think you said it was kind of like within you, but did you have any examples of people that led the way for you, whether you knew them personally or like for me growing up, a big example for me in entrepreneurship was Michael Jordan, like in what he did, branding and what he did on a global scale. He wasn't just a basketball player; he was a businessman and at a high level for both. Did you have any examples or people that you were following to get some of that information to be able to put it into your business?
Absolutely. My father was always in sales, and so he's very engaging and he communicates well. So I've always taken that from him. And my mother is very organized and structured, so I appreciate that because it keeps me organized. But I'd say probably my father. But my mom also instilled entrepreneurial values in me. She always kind of groomed me to go the business route. So my MBA and undergraduate is all retail and business related. And I really think I sourced from them. And growing up, one of my aunts had a store. So I always thought that was cool to have a store. um, and really just things I would see on TV. I used to watch a lot of late night soap operas with my mom, like Dynasty and Falcon Crest. I'm dating myself. I'm 40. So I
So
knew I
funny.
wanted to live like that, but I knew I probably would have to get it on my own. I probably wouldn't be able to do it working for someone. So it just has always been in the back of my mind, and it's always been a goal to pursue greatness.
So are you originally from Georgia or somewhere else?
I'm from Michigan,
Okay,
so
so I was going
I'm
to ask you how'd you get to Michigan? So you're from there.
yeah, I'm from Lansing, Michigan. Yeah, my mom worked for Michigan State for about 40 years. My brother played football back in the 90s. So we were a big Spartan family. Yeah.
Heck yeah. That's Magic Johnson went there, right?
He sure did. He
Yeah,
sure did.
yeah,
Yeah,
one of
he's
the greatest
awesome.
basketball players of all time.
Oh yeah, that's one of our proud moments there. Magic Johnson, he's amazing. His
So how was
his
your
sister was actually my guidance counselor in high school. You know your
his
guidance
sister?
counselor? Yeah, Pearl Johnson. She was a very nice lady. Yeah,
Small world, small world. Did you ever
small
meet
world.
Magic by chance?
I have not. No, I haven't.
No, it's all good. So going to school up there, what brought you to Georgia? Was it business? Was it personal?
My job. So at the time, I was transferred to Richmond, Virginia on a headquarter assignment. And I had put in a request to come to Atlanta years prior because my brother's been here for over 20 years. I've just always loved coming to visit. And so when I was in Richmond, they came to me and were like, hey, we got a spot in Atlanta. You want it? And I'm like, heck yeah. So I packed up, left Richmond, kind of went back and forth for about 9 months to a year. So I had a place in Indianapolis because I lived there before Richmond, a place in Richmond, and a place in Atlanta simultaneously for at least 3 months. So
Wow.
yeah, I was on a plane 24/7, and that
Back and
wore me
forth.
out. I think that was the point where I really started to think about changing my life because it was just draining. It was awesome, but it was a lot.
So were you paying three rents at one point?
No, because one in Indy, and then I had corporate housing in
Gotcha.
Richmond, and then temporarily when I came to Atlanta, and then I got my own place in Atlanta
That would
shortly.
have been a lot to ask for
Yeah,
anything.
I would have been poor.
Yeah.
I don't got money like
So
that.
when you got in to Atlanta and you started settling in, and you kind of started going through your journey and entrepreneurial path, what were some of the motivators for you to go out on your own, like to go independent? And again, I know that you had some experience in seeing this for other people, but was it the fame? People are motivated by a few things, that their name and lights. Was it the money? Was it the freedom that being your own boss can give you sometimes? Like what were the things that drew you to that side of things?
I never wanted the fame. I'm an ambivert, believe it or not. I'm extremely introverted in some cases. I really wanted the flexibility to
Okay.
own my own time and the money.
Yeah.
So that was important to me. And whenever you're working for someone else, you have a cap to a certain extent. So
You do.
with entrepreneurship, you make what you go out there and get. And I love that aspect of it. With the sales and marketing background, it kind of helped um, to close deals. But that's what really motivated me, was just having the freedom to, and just not having to deal with politics. When you work for yourself, there are still politics involved, but you kind of control things a little bit more than if you were to work for someone else.
So when you started this company that you're running now, the digital, is it the, how do you say it again? Marketing, digital marketing,
Oh
media,
yeah, digital marketing.
digital marketing. When you
Yeah.
started that company, what was that process like for you? Was it smooth sailing? Was it you're up against it and had a bunch of like hurdles to overcome? Like talk about like actually getting started into that company.
When I started Modern Creative, there were hurdles, definitely. And the first hurdle was prospecting. And I utilized professional speaking as my marketing tool because I didn't want to have to take out any loans or go into any debt. I wanted to keep my overhead real low. And I was fortunately able to do that. So I probably have given around over 100 speaking engagements before I got paid for my first one. And I
Wow.
remember the first one I got paid for. I was like, oh my gosh, I
The
can't believe it.
struggle is real.
The
I know
struggle is so real.
every speaker who's always had that same kind of deal where they just, even one guy that I know, he's local. He's a local talk show radio host. He's a doctor, Dr. Joe Esposito. He's on like Sunday nights, does the live show here in Atlanta. But he was like, he was going around, and if he had one person that would show up to a speaking event, and it was like at like a school or something, like he didn't care. He got to work through his routine, his pitch. He got to get comfortable, and then eventually one turned into many. So, what was that journey like for you? You said it took about 100 speaking engagements before you got paid. Like, what kind of places were you speaking at? What were you learning along the way?
Well, initially, I came in as the volunteer director of marketing for SCORE, which is a division of the Small Business Administration. And it's all entrepreneurs and small business owners that come to those events. And I love doing that because it not only gave me the opportunity to give back as a volunteer, but it also helped me develop my professional speaking skills. And many of the people that attended my classes back then are professional speakers or entrepreneurs and are doing very well. So we're able to kind of look back and laugh like, oh man, we made it through the trenches together.
That's right.
So that was an awesome experience. Fortunately, because let's see, that was about 2016. I had gone back to General Assembly to get my certification in digital marketing. So I blended the corporate piece with the new age digital marketing, and I just entrenched myself from a technical perspective to understand how to do everything from building websites to email marketing. I already was a writer, but just everything I needed to learn how to do because I wanted to know how long it took, how much it really cost, and I needed to make the money myself before I could start hiring other people. So it's kind of funny when I look at some of my old invoices and I'm like, oh, this should be illegal. They took advantage of me. But so those of you who got me when I was cheap, you're lucky. But no, I also appreciate all of those folks for growing with me because a lot of them are still my clients to this day. And they really speak to the growth journey that we've had together and just how much better their stuff looks. So
That's
I'm
beautiful.
grateful for all those folks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting when you go out as a service-based business and you go out as a consultant where you're charging a fee for your
Mhm.
services and your expertise, how we always tend to shoot ourselves in the foot when we first get started. And I was on a podcast before this one with a buddy, and he was saying the same exact thing, exactly what you're saying, like how he would charge X, which was way underpriced, undervalued versus what he commands now. And a lot of it is self-confidence. Most of it, if not all of it, is being confident with, walking into your own business and starting a company, and you get that first client, your first handful of clients, you really don't know your self-worth like you would if you stayed in that business for a couple of years, because you're getting into it and you're just learning how to promote yourself and market yourself and deal with people at a certain level. You're really undervaluing yourself. And like, even for me, it took a while because I'm a consultant and people pay me for my advice. And I started, with the whole, and this is a whole sales thing. We could talk about sales forever because I'm a sales guy at heart, but the whole like pitch people high, look them in the eye, watch them buy kind of thing, where like, if you start low, you can't go up from there. So like, you have to start high if you're going to negotiate, right? Like, you got to start higher than where you actually want to be. And that's the first step. The second step is just being confident and saying, this is my price. This is what it is. Let's do business together. And maybe even take a negotiation off the table, because when you first start out, you just want that client, you just want that paying customer. And it's almost like you'll take all comers, where over the course of time, and I'm sure you've experienced this, like you get really refined on who your target market is and who your avatar is in your world and like who your demographic is, that you know who you want to work with, and you know basically if they're qualified to be able to like pay you for your services. So is that some of the same kind of things that you experience? Like talk about like what works for you in your business.
100%. I think to your point, when you first get started, you have to take on everyone, or you feel as if you do, because you're trying to make a certain amount of money and maintain a certain lifestyle. But as time went on, to your point, and I understood my value and I was able to better articulate my value, that's when the prices went up. And there's even been people that turned me down and came back years later because they realized that I was worth the price. And that meant more to me than anything, because they were able to recognize and see that I can drive results and there's strategy involved. And they're getting a lot more than just a freelance digital marketer. You're getting 14 years of corporate training and MBA and all this time I put in on these systems. And I mean, the advice they get around marketing stacks and just structuring their business really is more than what the average small marketing agency could give to them. So,
Yep.
but at first, yeah, their prices weren't where they needed to be.
They never are. And over time, I think we become more comfortable as business operators with understanding the cost of the time it takes to run a business, and the effort that you put into it and the skills that you've obtained over time. They are valuable. And if you can teach someone how to do something quicker, or you can teach them how to do it better, or you can save them or make them money while doing it. I mean, there's a lot of value in that. And that's why we exist, I think. So, so talk about how you used, like, so talk about the speaking, because that's really, I think, interesting. So you did 100 speaking engagements. Like, give us some context, the listeners and viewers, on where some of these engagements were, maybe like the strangest place that you had a speaking engagement, maybe the strangest event, maybe the funnest event, the biggest event. Talk a little bit about your speaking.
The largest event I ever spoke at was at Georgia Power, and at the time, it was right before Stacey Abrams went to run for office, so she had just started. And that was amazing to be in the same room with her and have the opportunity to speak on the same stage as a talented person of that caliber. I've spoken at Georgia Power several times with an organization called the Women's Entrepreneurial Opportunity Project, and the vast majority of my speaking engagements were with them, because I feel as if I'm giving back my time, I want it to sincerely help other people. And it's predominantly focused on women at all different walks in life from an entrepreneurial perspective. Some have nothing and are just getting started, and some are very successful multimillionaires. So that was one platform. Score. We did a lot of events with, I did a lot of events with them. Score and Google. Constant Contact. I have
Yeah.
a partnership with them. Let's see, General Assembly. I went there and they gave me the chance to come back as a panelist, as a speaker, as a TA in the classroom. So a big shout out to General Assembly. I just did a podcast with them in Tag about a month or so ago. Let's see. There's been a lot. The Commerce Club, which is a
Yep.
Club Core property. So you have the Buckhead Club here in the Commerce Club, and I'm the chair of their marketing club. So I've done a lot of speaking engagements for them. And the cool thing about it is, as time went on, a lot of the same people started to follow me wherever I went. So that was a good feeling when people would come up and tell me about their journey and how far they've come along, or how they've implemented something that I may have mentioned in person or on a podcast or webinar. So that's very rewarding to see all those people doing well.
You started resonating and you started building a fan base, in a sense. People started falling in love with your message. And so,
Mhm.
so now you let's fast forward through your speaking engagements. You went through like the first 100 or so, and then you started getting paid. What was that experience like? Were you just like, put your foot down? You're like, you know what? My time is money. Like, pay me. Or did they offer? Like, how did that work?
Oh, I was going to charge them, to your point, because I was like, they have a budget. But it was a technology company. And when I asked how they found me, they had seen my name and my picture in a General Assembly email that had gone out. And they wanted to bring me out. And I came out for basically the lunchtime time period. And we talked about digital marketing and its role in the company for communicating internally. And it went pretty well. So that was one of the first ones I had. And then everything just kept going from there. But speaking is a great way to get exposure too, because you control your narrative when you're a speaker. So people are going to believe what you say you are if you have the knowledge to back it up and you're doing it consistently. And when you're speaking for organizations that already have existing brands, those organizations already have audiences. So it allows both sides to benefit because you're bringing your knowledge and expertise, and your audience gets exposed to you and vice versa. So it's a win-win situation.
What would you say to
Yeah.
someone who's listening or watching that wants to get paid for speaking? Like, how would they have that conversation? And how would they bring that up? And then I guess it kind of ties back to what we were talking about as being confident in your business and charging a consulting fee. Probably maps over from there. But like, what would you recommend that people, how they start getting paid for their speaking?
The first thing that you want to do is structure what your payments look like. So you want to structure your consulting payments, whether it be by the day, by the hour, by the project.
Okay.
And then you want to take a look at, from a speaking engagement perspective, are you doing a keynote? Are you doing an hour? Are you doing a half day? Are you doing workshops? And then break down your pricing. The last thing you ever want to do is confuse someone around your pricing. You want it to be crystal clear as to what they're receiving, how long it's going to be, and how much it costs. Because if there's any breakdown in that, that's when people lose faith in you. So
Yep.
when you have a very clean, laid out structure of what your payments are in a document, and it's neat and it's appealing to the eye with pictures and examples of your prior speaking engagements, topics, um, even if you're able to send video reels and things of that nature, make it easy for them to make the decision. You don't want them to have to keep asking, well, I'm kind of confused. How much is it for a half day? Or I mean, if I add an hour on, and then you also want to keep in mind the number of guests and attendees that are going to be there. So if you're releasing your intellectual property and your knowledge to a group of 25, the price should be much different to a group of 250. So keep that in mind when you're charging, because there are more people who have access to your information, and whenever you go speak, have something to sell, whether it be a book, whether it's a course, whether it's consulting time. I would suggest all three at bare minimum, because that's going to keep you top of mind with people for longer. Speaking has also allowed me to come in on corporate assignments as well, because when I'm sharing this information on LinkedIn, the corporate connections that I have are able to consistently see me demonstrating the knowledge sharing. So I'm able to stay top of mind when they need someone to come in as a consultant and work through sales strategy, or selling presentations and departmental issues that they may have. So the more you get out there and the more examples you have, the better. It's free marketing for you.
Build that highlight reel, have those
Yeah,
video clips of maybe you speaking and people shaking hands and people like smiling, having a good time, and then have that one page or a deck or something to show people what your pricing is. I think it just comes down to being prepared and using those experiences to be able to say, hey, this is what I can bring to the table. And an interesting point you brought up was 25 people versus 250 people. I'm assuming the price goes up for more people.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So just
Yeah.
knowing your market and knowing your audience, literally, like knowing the people that are, talking with you. If you're going into a situation, maybe having two decks ready or two one pagers ready, like a one pager for a smaller group and a one pager for a bigger group kind of thing. And maybe just being able to, share those, accordingly. So as far as, in your business now, how long you been operating your business?
Since 2013 officially, but I mean, it's really been zooming since about 2016.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's call it from 2016 till now. What are some of
Mhm.
the biggest lessons and takeaways you found in running your business and scaling your business?
Know your worth. So we discussed that one.
That's the
Have
narrative of this conversation.
Know your worth, absolutely. And also have processes for everything that you do.
Okay.
So the more you can streamline your operations, the more time you have to sell and to execute. So you shouldn't have to take a significant amount of time to do regular tasks. So you need to be very organized, get your organizational stack together, all the different software that you need. Try to find software that does as much of it as possible, so that you're able to just blaze through the day and not get caught up with being disorganized and not being able to find things. Keep your pricing updated. So revisit your pricing at least every quarter at the very least. Sometimes I revisit my pricing on a monthly basis, depending on what's coming in. With COVID, unfortunately, I mean, we all know what's going on. For my business, though, it's been the most busy months I've ever had in the history of my business. So I'm grateful for that, but not happy about, the current conditions. But because of that, I had to pivot very quickly and
Yep.
be able to have solid onboarding strategies for these clients and portals for them to access resources and really structured proposals, really structured contracts, all that stuff. There's so many free tools out there like Canva. I mean, you should never be sending anything in Word just in black and white. There's just too much stuff out here.
Dress it up a little bit, make it
Yeah,
look sexy. Yeah.
exactly. I always say that. I'm like, make it sexy. So, but people buy into that as part of your brand and also yourself. Whenever I go somewhere, I try to be aware of how I'm presenting myself and how I'm making other people feel.
Yep.
Because how you make people feel is also very important
That's the
because
game.
they're all valuable,
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, do you have people that you have in your business, whether they're like virtual assistants or full-time employees from that gamut that help you with your day-to-day operations? Or have you gotten to that point where you've brought on people?
Absolutely. So I have 14 contractors. I have a radio, TV, and billboard buying arm. I have a publicist that does a lot of the PR work for my ones that are consultants and speakers. And then I have some contractors for WordPress and some of the website stuff. So definitely have contractors now. I don't see myself ever having full-time employees. I don't think it's necessary. I want to keep the business running really lean, and it has worked really well so far, and it helps me help other people keep money in their pocket, especially during a time like this. There's been people I haven't even talked to in a couple of years. I'm like, look, I got some work for you. They're ready to
They're
go.
excited.
So
So,
yeah,
so
everybody's ready to go
I,
right now.
I bring up that question because there was another question behind it. There's a book called The E Myth. Have you heard of this book before?
Yep.
Okay. So the entrepreneurial myth goes into, for those that are listening and watching, it talks about three different types of people, and you're all that person in your business at different times. And so you could be the entrepreneur, which is the big thinker and the dreamer and the one that puts the ideas together. You can be the day-to-day manager, the operations manager, where you're managing the processes and the people and the outcomes of things. And then you're the technician, which is like the
Mhm.
wizard at your craft, right? And this is what your expertise is. And sometimes those things run into each other, and then you become the bottleneck in your business. So you really have to remove yourself sometimes from your business and look at it a certain way and figure out different things. So what are some things that you've learned about your business? Because it sounds like you've got it moving along pretty well. And how do you not get in your own way?
I put everything on a schedule. So content is produced during a certain time frame. And I let clients know too. It's not that I won't bring them on board, but here's the time frame because all content goes out on the first, unless it's just a separate deliverable that's needed. Every client's on retainer. So I don't take clients for one-off marketing deliverables anymore. Like some agencies,
Smart.
oh no, you'll be too busy. It's just too much onboarding. And you'll find that you'll make more money than just selling one-off deliverables. You want to have your clients on retainer because that's the best way to keep a consistent income coming in, and it's the best way to build relationships with your clients. It's all about continuous business development. So you don't want all these one-off clients here and there. It's not to say that I won't bring in a one-off client every now and then, especially if it's a referral, but in those cases, my contractors are handling those most times. So get your clients on retainer. You deserve it.
That's beautiful advice. And it's also cash flow, right? It's also making sure that there's some sort of consistent, like predictable revenue at some level. If you have a contract, which everyone should have a contract, if you're doing some sort of consulting or service-based work, that you want to give them respect in that contract. Like for me, I have like a 30-day heads up. If they don't want to continue a financial planning agreement, they can give me 30 days and they can exit that contract, where I'm not trying to hold their feet to the fire or hold them hostage, but it's better than not having a contract, and people can just walk whenever they want. It makes it more professional. It gives more value on both ends. It's something where I feel like there's a lot of people that get into business. They don't think about these things. They don't think about next month I need to have X amount of money coming in. And if you don't have something set up that's dedicated, that's going to make that happen, you're playing like Russian roulette with your business and your life.
hmm And you cannot afford to do that, especially if you're on your own. You have to have structure and you have to get those retainers. And it really, instills value in the relationship, because then you know the client's serious and they know that you're serious about delivering. So
Yep. And they know what to expect. And it's a big thing is coaching and teaching your clients on how to work with you. And of course they're going to teach you and educate you in certain aspects, but they have to understand that there's a process and there's a rhythm, and this is how it goes. And this is
absolutely.
how we become leaner and meaner together. Talk about some of your bigger client wins. I know all client wins are important, but like, were there any clients that you're really chasing for a long time, or seemed like the unicorn that you're able to land? And, if you can't talk about names, I understand, but just talk about the experience of that.
Oh, one of the very large ones was a consumer packaged goods company. And I remember the first few times I visited that company as a guest for different events, I was just blown away. All the people I talked to, I'm like, wow, you're so lucky to work here. And it was just an amazing place. And I knew one day I would do business with them. And they actually called this year, and they brought me more clients through another program that they have. So that was a dream come true. I also have been brought in as a fractional exec for an insurance company, and it's a fantastic group of folks. We're closing some big deals with some large companies or organizations and entertainers and net worth individuals. So that's a great experience to learn from the people over there and kind of how they operate and how things are structured. So that's
Must
been a
feel
really
good
big
when you
one.
have a client that loves you so much they start giving you more business in the way of referrals. It's like, that's ideal. I mean, if you
Mhm.
can have a business that's serving people or companies and they feel like there's a ton of value, they're going to tell their friends about it. And
Mhm.
that's one of the best referrals is a client that's happy.
Absolutely. And now at this point, that's pretty much how I get all my clients is through referrals. But I continuously market. I still do speaking engagements, but I'm fortunate now to where the clients are just being referred. And that's the way that you want to have it. You want to do so well that people want all their friends to come to you.
Yep.
And one thing I want to talk about too is it's okay to fire a client. I remember going through that in the early days, and just you don't have to take too much from anyone. And sometimes it may not even really be a bad situation. It may just be you don't see eye to eye. And I think it's important and healthy for both of you to let it go if it's not a good fit.
I love that you brought it up because it's something that I completely believe in. There's a piece that goes to that with the art of saying no. And the art of
Hmm.
saying no, even when it comes down to like protecting your time, which is super important for an entrepreneur and anyone in life, their time. I mean, time's the most important commodity that we don't get more of.
Hmm.
I'm almost about 60% of the way through writing a book, and the book talks about the first thing is the importance of time. It talks about a Stoic philosophy called memento mori. Memento mori says, know that you're mortal, know that you're going to die. So let that be the inspiration to live a life well lived and how you show up in the world. And if you can't say no to clients, if you can't say no to people to protect your time, you're at the mercy of everyone else. And it goes as deep as firing a client, right? So telling a client, no, I don't want to work with you anymore. It doesn't have to be, it's all in the art of how you do it. Can you leave them better than you found them? Can you connect them with someone else that can help them that would be a better fit for them, right? But in just being honest with them. And I think for me, one of my secrets is the onboarding process. When I meet with a client, I look at it like dating. Like, do I want this person in my life? Are they going to be what I call, it's a military term, a pain in the ass, a PETA? We don't want PETAs in our business. How can I vet these people out? And I have an onboarding process that I gauge through my experience. And then I also have assessments that helps me gauge if they're a good fit. And right away, I know if there's someone I want to work with and vice versa.
I think that's excellent and so important because you can save yourself time as well as save them time. And with the assessments, that plays a vital role in all of that. But the more of that you can flush through out the gate, to your point, it's just like dating. You're spending a lot of time with this individual and you're servicing them and catering to their professional needs. So it has to be someone that you want to work with consistently. So it's very important. So I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's all about making people feel good. If you can help someone feel, special, that's the goal. But at the end of the day, you don't want to burn relationships because you never know. It could be someone coming back and attacking your business. It could be somebody who wants to sue you, God forbid, for something. But you got to put people in a good position and know that the big thing is removing ego from the table and not trying to be like, well, I'm the business owner and I'm always right. Like that's not, just treat people the way that they want to be treated and try to leave them better than you found them.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to really stay you have to stay grounded and self-aware. You have to focus on your own confidence too, because it may not be the client, it may be you. So
For
you got
sure.
to check your own insecurities consistently, and you can never make your problems your client's problem. So your client doesn't need to know if you're having a bad day, really. Your
Oh,
client doesn't need to know everything that's going on in your life. Your job is to service your client, be authentic, and be professional.
that's it.
Yeah.
And just having that level of like you said, authenticity. Like I'm the same person if I were to go to church, or if I'm in front of, my mom, if she was still here, or if I was in front of, my buddies having a beer. Like I'm the same person all the way around. And I think that it opens the door for, like, you don't have to like play roles or play games. Like you be the same person everywhere you go, but having that level of professionalism in business where, you don't piss a client off is important. So I love that. As far as is what you're consuming now to grow your business, to learn how to do XYZ in your business, to, it can even be personal development. Who are some of the thought leaders that you're into, or some books that you're reading, or even some podcasts that you're listening to?
Oh man, let me open up my Audible app
Do
so
it.
I can share with you. People Love You by Jeff Blount, and that's about selling. Uh, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. She's PhD. Anything by Donald Miller. I
Okay.
love Donald Miller. So Marketing Made Simple, Building a Story Brand, Fanatical Prospecting, also by Jeff Blount.
Yep.
Becoming Bulletproof by Evie, but she was a FBI agent, and she has an awesome story.
That sounds fun.
So you have to go to her Instagram, because when I was listening to the Audible book, I'm imagining like this kick-ass special agent, and when you go to her Instagram, she's so like a model or something, you know. So it's like
Can you
this
spell her
little,
name? I'm gonna pull it up right now.
yeah, it's the letter E like elephant, V like Victor, Y like yellow, and then her last name is
Got it.
Poumpours.
Becoming
Yeah,
bulletproof.
she's awesome. So she talks about how to lie detect and just vetting people, and it's really interesting. I love it.
Well,
Um,
I got a buddy that I follow. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. He's also a podcaster. He's an entrepreneur. His name's Andy Stump, and he follows her. So it's like once you start seeing people that you're into following these people, it makes you feel good that you're following them.
Absolutely, because you know that you're in good company.
That's
I
right.
also like Marie Forleo, so everything's figure outable. Um, I have so many in here. Amy Schmitter, Vlog Like a Boss, Blue Ocean Strategy. I mean, I could go on and on.
How do you bake all that into your life? So like you mentioned earlier, and this is something that I do specifically today. Today's my podcasting, marketing, and branding day. So I have 3 back-to-back podcasts, and then I do some marketing and some content stuff on this day too. And it sounds like you did this in a conversation piece earlier, that you block out your time or your days. How do
Mhm.
you put in the self-development piece or the learning piece? Is it just kind of as it comes, or do you actually have, like a weekend every quarter where you go do something? Like, what does it look like for you?
I do have a weekend once a month where I
Okay.
just take off and I just decompress, because you have to. When you're a creative, you got to turn it off. I like yoga. I like hiking when we can get back out there a little
Get into
more.
nature. Yeah.
Absolutely, get outside. I went to the park on Saturday, read a book from the park, Virtual Selling.
There you go. Jed Blunt.
Uh,
Jed Blunt. I know him through my ex-wife. They have him, and I'm sure he's at other companies like this, but over at a company called NetChecks in Mandeville, Louisiana, which I love them. They're a great company, great organization, great people. They have him as like like they hired him as a consultant to help their sales process, which is really cool.
oh, they're getting the best of the best. He's
Yeah.
awesome. I'm enjoying this book so far. And so really at blackout time, to your point, I have certain days for certain things. Monday and Friday, most of the times no one can get on my schedule because those are content days. Um,
I feel very lucky. Thank you.
oh yeah, no, I'm grateful for the
Today being a
opportunity.
Monday, I'm
Yeah.
on your schedule.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity, and I know you're busy too. So I also try to accommodate the schedules of others, but I purposely just block that out so that people can
Smart.
just freely book on those days. And then I do the Audible books when I'm working out. That's why I do
So
Audible
smart.
more than the reading, because you can multitask and it takes your mind off the workout, because I like the results of the workout, but I don't really like the workout. So I'm like, if I'm listening to this cool book, then I won't
In
remember that
life, and I'm big into health and wellness. You have to be fit. Like you have to be fit for life, for your relationships, for your business. Like if you, it's so much harder. You need the energy, like the energy that working out gives you, and the clarity, and the, some of my best ideas come from when I'm jumping rope for like 30, 40 minutes. Like I'll just go into like a Zen meditative state. It's like, oh my goodness, this business idea, or this podcast idea. So it's like, I don't even know how people do it. Honestly, I don't know how people don't work out, or they're not into health, wellness, and fitness, that are entrepreneurs. I couldn't even imagine. Um, but as far as like what you're talking about with when you consume it, that's when you consume it, is your audiobook. I've learned that like my university days are on the road. So like when I drive to and from the office, and I have an Audible book that I can put on, and because I'm big into Audible as well, all my books are there. I'll listen to it, 20, 30 minutes one way, 20, 30 minutes back another way. If I'm not on calls, or if I'm not doing something else, I get almost an hour in every time I do that. And it's a beautiful way to learn. And then I can take notes and all that stuff, which I probably shouldn't be doing while driving, but I try to voice note as many as I can. But I think ongoing education, blocking out time for that ongoing education, and enjoying the process really makes you a much better person and entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And you have to stay abreast of current trends. You have to know what's going on. You want to know the newest thing that's out in whatever area that you're working in, because you want to be able to bring the best to your clients. So I'm always trying to research some different type of software or program, or just something that I learned, so I can share it with them. That's added value, because they're busy trying to run a business. So if you maximize your knowledge in your space for what they hired you for, then you have so much more to give. You're more valuable.
100%, 100%. So we've been talking about all the beautiful things of entrepreneurship and the growth and everything. But what are some of the biggest things you've had to overcome? Some of the biggest hurdles, whether they were personal or business wise, that you know shook you to your core, or maybe seemed insurmountable? And how did you get over those things?
Personally, I'd say being able to turn it off, because when you're a creative, your mind, I mean, it's like squirrel. It's
Yeah,
crazy. So just being able to turn it off sometimes is hard, but I think meditation helps. Just like you said, with health and wellness, it's more than just food and working out. Like, you really have to keep your mind
for sure.
right. And during a time like this, especially, you've got to keep your mind clear. And I'm a big advocate for having someone to talk to, and it shouldn't always be your friends or your spouse. You
I
need to
agree.
talk to a professional, because your
Yep.
friends and your spouse, in most cases, aren't professional therapists.
And
And
they
even
can
if they,
trigger you.
right, they can trigger you like that. That's why you did this.
Right, right.
But yeah, I think everyone should take time to speak with someone, even if it's just for 1 hour a week. And right now, a lot of the insurance companies are doing good deals on like the teleconferences,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
just think it's great, because it's like garbage in, garbage out. And that person is going to give you a non-biased perspective, and be a good listener, and that way you don't have to take your day and just unleash that on your friends and family or close ones. You
I
can.
love that you brought that up. That's an amazing, amazing point. I personally have, I started with executive like leadership coaching, but it was under the guise of I've had a really fucked up life and I need therapy.
Pretty much.
It turned into, years. This has been years now. I want to say maybe since 2014 that I've had some sort of wise counsel, whether it's a therapist, whether it was my coach and mentor, Patrick Tucker. Um, you have to have people that are they want to see you do well, but they're not going to be like your friends or your spouse, where either we talked about A, they could trigger you, or B, they're going to sugarcoat stuff and they're just going to be like, oh, it's okay. Like, you see, sometimes you need the truth, and you always need the truth, but sometimes you need to hear it in that unbiased way. And I couldn't agree more. Having wise counsel around you in business and health and wellness and life and personal relationships, someone that does that for a living, the value is immeasurable.
Yeah, 100%. You have to have it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think sometimes people are ashamed to say that they talk to someone, but I think you should be ashamed if you're not,
Yep.
because it's the responsible thing to do, so that you can be your best self for your clients and all those around you.
I
It's
agree.
not going to make you perfect, but it's going to make you better.
If we were perfect, we'd be boring. And if we were all the same, we'd be boring. So
Exactly.
having color in our lives with differences and idiosyncrasies is what makes us beautiful. But as far as for your business and you're looking forward to the future, where do you want this thing to take you and where do you want to take this business?
I'd like to continue to scale the business, but I want to do it more through the courses. So I love having the agency side. I love the interface with the clients, but I genuinely enjoy consulting and I enjoy the courses. The agency is kind of like the store.
Yep.
So for online courses, I think from a longevity perspective, that's what's going to continue to scale the business. And when I look at the consulting side versus the deliverable side, I make way more consulting and I enjoy it. So the agency is there to really just support whatever the clients need when I'm providing consulting services.
And if I'm an entrepreneur at any stage of the game, like let's say hadn't even started up yet, just idea, or maybe a new startup or a seasoned entrepreneur, what are some takeaways or advice you'd give to that person to kind of help them through the journey?
I gave this advice at a speaking engagement one time, and I was in a company, and we're in this big room. And I was basically saying, sometimes when you come in to work on Monday, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. This is terrible. But treat your job or whatever situation you're in right now, treat everything for the rest of your life like it's a consulting gig. Because, I'm only 40. So if somebody offered me the right amount of money, I might go back to work, but it's going to have to be a certain amount of money. And I doubt if I would ever do it,
Yeah.
like, unless I really had to. So, but my point is, even if I had to, I would treat that job like a consulting gig. So, what I mean by treating your job like a consulting gig is that learn everything that you can while you're there and monitor your time. So, sometimes when you're working for someone else, you might give them 60, 65 hours a week, but are you really managing your time well?
Yeah.
How are you really maximizing what you're doing within those time frames? So, and when you treat everything like a consulting gig, then you find more value in what you're delivering. And there's a certain level of professionalism that increases because now that is of value to you and you're not taking it for granted. And when you look at yourself as a consultant, you have more self-love and you have more respect for yourself because you know you're a subject matter expert. If you just look at yourself like a worker bee or an employee and like you don't matter, then that's the way you're going to carry yourself and that's the way you're going to get treated and you're never really going to advance. So you have to walk in like, yeah, I run this. I know what I'm doing. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to work with you. What are we going to do? Let me solve some problems. So, you know, that's my advice.
Beautiful. The narrative of just confidence, knowing your self-worth, carrying yourself a certain way. It obviously has worked well for you and you've done amazing things. And I look forward to seeing all the things that you're going to continue to do in the world. And any way that I could support you, share and add value and be of service is my goal. So thanks so much for being on the show today. She's the amazing, mighty, and powerful Mia Martin. I'm Jesse T. Be sure to catch us on next week's episode of The Jesse T Show.